Good morning and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting. Today is Thursday, November 14th. We do begin each of our meetings with an invocation, and this morning we have Susan Gillespie from The Road. We invite you to join us.
Good morning. Shall we pray? Oh, gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day and for the opportunity to be here. We rejoice in you, O Lord, the creator and sustainer of all things, our blessed Redeemer. We come before you this week praising the miracle you performed for the United States of America. You raised up prayer warriors who cried out to you in many gatherings and marches, and you heard from heaven and you forgave us. You gave us leadership that desires to govern according to your statutes and your principles. We can never say thank you enough, Lord. You have given us a reprieve as you did with the people of Nineveh when they repented and turned to you. We deserve judgment, but you extended mercy. We praise you, our rock and our Redeemer. All the glory is yours. Father, we want to bless you and serve you in El Paso County and all of Colorado the way that you deserve. We need you and we depend on you to guide and direct us as we seek to lift up your righteousness in our city, our county, our state, and in our nation. In each of the 7 mountains of family, religion, education, media, arts and entertainment, business and government. We pray for those who have been placed in positions of leadership in our government, that they would walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise men and women, seeking you about every decision. You told us in Proverbs 29:2 that when the righteous flourish, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people groan. You heard our groaning and you saved our nation. As David wrote in Psalm 144:3, Lord, what are human beings that you care for them, mere mortals that you think of them? They are like a breath. Their days are like a fleeting shadow. We are humbled and so in awe, dear Lord, more than we can say. All the glory is yours. May your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. For we ask it in the holy name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you. And Commissioner Williams, would you lead us in the pledge? Item 3.
Item number 3 is staff emergency items, and I'm unaware of any staff emergency items today.
Item 4.
Item number 4 is changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. I'm unaware of any changes or postponements to today's agenda, and the next meeting will be Tuesday, November 19th at 9:00 a.m.
Item 5.
Item number 5 is public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. This is the public's opportunity to speak on an item that is not scheduled on today's agenda. And Madam Chair, I'm unaware of anyone signing in to speak under public comment today.
Okay, is there anyone here who wishes to speak on an item not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none in the room and none online. Before we move to item 6, we do need a motion to excuse both Commissioner Bremer as well as Commissioner Gonzalez.
I'll make a motion to excuse Commissioner Bremer and Commissioner Gonzalez.
Second.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 3-0. Item 6.
Item number 6 is the land use consent calendar, including items 6A through 6D. And Madam Chair, the board has been provided a packet of public comment regarding item number 6A that was received after publication of the agenda that will be marked as an exhibit. And I am aware that there are people signed in to speak on items on the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you. So we will go ahead and begin with any individual who would like to speak on an item on the consent calendar. If you will come forward, state your name for the record. Please be sure that you did sign in, and we will set the timer for you. So we ask you to please adhere to that time limit, as well as make sure you are telling us which item you are speaking about.
Morning. My name is Timothy Rowan, and I am a Woodmore resident, so I want to speak on item 6A. Most of my neighbors are workers, and I'm retired, so I represent a number of people in the neighborhood who live within walking distance and earshot of the proposal and who drive on the roads surrounding the proposed improvement every day. Don't know if you are familiar with the intersection, but the proposed development is directly across Woodmore Drive from the junior high. And every morning at 8 o'clock and every afternoon at 2:30, that road, Woodmore Drive, is lined with parents picking up their kids, buses making left turns. And on the other side, Deer Creek Road, I don't know if you're familiar with it, and I don't know if there is a traffic impact study that has been conducted. If so, I would love to see it. But Deer Creek Road, which I believe is where the entrance and exit to this new community will be, is a narrow road, so narrow that it's not even striped. When two cars approach each other in opposite directions, one has to move over virtually on the shoulder in order to make room. So this proposal is talking about adding 44 units. So somewhere between 44 and 88 vehicles are going to be added at rush hour to Deer Creek Road every day, directly across from the junior high. I think that a traffic impact study is probably, along with water availability, the most important consideration for approving or disapproving of this project. It is going to be a miserable impact on the neighborhood. The people that live in that neighborhood go in and out of that intersection every day. There is no other way out. There's no real back road without winding through even smaller roads to get your way over to 83 or to Woodmore Lake Drive. Therefore, I think it's an impractical proposal that is going to put an unreasonable burden on the roads. If there is a plan to widen Deer Creek Road and to lessen the impact on the junior high students, my neighbors and I would like to see it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak on an item on the consent calendar?
Good morning. I'm Doug Widland. I'm an attorney representing Casas Limited Partnership regarding the Eagle Rising consent item. I'm not sure how procedurally you want to go forward, but I could speak now, or maybe be easier if we did after staff presented their resolution on the item.
So this is currently on as a consent item.
Yes.
We would need to pull this off. I'll ask the clerk, do we need a motion to pull that off onto the called up consent?
Madam Chair, I think we can consider the item under the called up consent calendar, and then we would just exclude it from the motion for the regular consent calendar.
Okay. So that would just, for the commissioners, when we get to the point of making a motion, if we would like to pull off 6D for a full hearing and staff and applicant presentation, we need to do that under that consent item. Or, excuse me, under that motion for the consent calendar. So I think let's hold off and we will put you under that. I would ask the commissioners to do that with the motion, and we'll do that as a full hearing.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Okay, anyone else here that would like to speak on an item on the consent calendar?
Yes, my name is Jim White, and I live in the Woodmore community, on Deer Creek Road, in fact. And like previously mentioned, I don't know if there was been a traffic study done on this project or not for Waterside, but that is a major concern of all of the residents within the Woodmore area, is because with the junior high right across the street from it, and then you got the elementary school on White Fawn, and so Woodmore Drive and Deer Creek Road are two of the roads that get people to the elementary school. And I know that I would like to see a impact study done on that situation as well, with all of the additional traffic coming from the Jackson Creek development at Jackson Creek and Highway 105. A lot of people are looking for different ways to get around all that traffic congestion there. And Deer Creek Road from Woodmore Drive all the way to the frontage road is a disaster. The complete road is nothing but pothole repairs. And so that has all happened within the last few years since the Jackson Creek thing has came up. So the speed limit throughout Woodmore typically is 25 miles an hour, just about on all of the streets within the Woodmore area. There are some places that have a 30-mile-an-hour zone and a 35. but there is no traffic control whatsoever. The Woodmore security that they have there, they are not authorized or able to issue tickets or to monitor speeders going through our neighborhood. And so that's a concern there. And I don't know that I've ever seen a El Paso County Sheriff's Office coming in there and doing any checks. There's a place called Toboggan Hill there, and there are no parking signs all over that area. During the wintertime, the kids use that for sledding and having a good time. And Woodmore Security can't even issue no parking ticket violation because they're not authorized to do so. And so when all those cars, when the parking lot gets full, they park on the roads, and then it becomes basically a one-lane road. And so that's, with added traffic, is only going to cause other problems. And I think the one point at a meeting that was held to get approval of their original plan was that the study supposedly stated that, well, they're going to fit in, you know, with the dunes and the beach. Well, it's going to all fit in. Well, no, I'm sorry. It does not fit in with the other areas of Woodmore. So,
Sir, your time has expired, so please do wrap up your comments.
okay. So anyway, I don't think it's right for them to sugarcoat their project, making it a luxury townhouse community now. And so don't sugarcoat it just to make us feel good about your situation, because it's still going to be another eyesore within a beautiful community.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on an item on the consent calendar? Okay, seeing none, and we have none online. So I'll go ahead and bring it up here for commissioners for any questions, comments, and motion.
Yes, and I do appreciate very much those who have come to speak on this water side at Lake Woodmore. The file does include an approved traffic study. Additionally, we do collect road impact fees from the developer to handle our roads, and those are collected over time or upfront from the individual homeowners. And I see that the Planning Commission also approved this 6-0. I am satisfied the criteria have been met, and this is in my district, and so I will move approval of the consent calendar items 6A through 6C, and leave out 6D.
And we'll hear that item under called up consent.
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you. I do just want to add a quick comment here. As Commissioner Williams mentioned, the traffic impact study, a couple of people mentioned that. So, and wanting copies of that, that is uploaded to our website, and it is available for anyone who would like to see all of that information in the packet. So I wanted to make sure that you all know that that is available to you. With that, I will call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 3-0. Item 7.
Item number 7 is the called up consent calendar, including item number 6D, preliminary plan, Eagle Rising preliminary plan reconsideration, a request by Casas Limited Partnership number 4 and IQ Investors LLC for approval of the third 2-year extension to record the first final plat within the Eagle Rising preliminary plan boundary, PCD file number SP205. The 70.97 acre property is zoned RR 2.5, residential rural, and is located approximately 1/2 mile east of Black Forest Road and immediately north of the anticipated Briargate Parkway eastern extension. If approved, the extension would move the expiration date of the preliminary plan from November 15th, 2024 to November 14th, 2026. Parcel numbers 52290, 00034, and 035. Commissioner District Number 1, file SP205, Brian Hauser, Principal Planner, Planning and Community Development.
Hello. So my name is Ryan Hauser, Planning Community Development. I'm the planner with El Paso County that's been processing this application, and this is the case number SP 205 for the Eagle Rising preliminary plan extension request. I think the commissioners will find the staff packet is a little bit different than what you normally see, since this is an atypical request. It's not a full consideration of an approval of a preliminary plan. It is a consideration for a 2-year extension to allow them to have 2 more years before they are to extend their eligibility to record a final plat within the boundary. Again, my name is Ryan Hauser. Jeff Rice was the engineer on this project. This presentation is going to be a little bit more abbreviated as well, since it's going to be more catered towards the specific request today for the extension. So this slide is more or less intended to summarize the background of the project and show the years that it's been in review, with the original approval occurring in 2013. Following the blanket extension of all preliminary plans, the next reconsideration request was approved in 2020, extending the deadline to December 8th of 2022, with the following one occurring 2 years ago on November 15th. And then today now is going to be the third request for another extension that would run out until November 14th of 2026. I can say that during this time frame, staff has been continuously reviewing both the preliminary plan and the final plat to ensure that it is compliant with today's standards. The process that the county has applied in the past for what we have considered a reconsideration is such that the previous approval can be reconsidered if all of the components of the application are brought up to meet today's current standards for planning and engineering in the Land Development Code and the Engineering Criteria Manual. Staff has approved the preliminary plan, so the preliminary plan has been approved contingent upon them getting a plat recorded within the proposed time frame. And presently, staff is still working out a few challenges with the applicant in order to get that plat to a point when it can be considered ready for an administrative approval. The commission may remember several months ago, this application was brought before you for an amended water finding. So they have established a water finding for the entire preliminary plan area and are eligible for administrative final plat approval, provided that all of staff's comments and concerns can be addressed. This is just a graphic intended to depict the approved preliminary plan. And I think it's important to understand the differences between the approved preliminary plan and the proposed final plat, so that the board can understand what the outstanding staff challenges are and why the applicant is requesting another extension in order to address those concerns. Staff's main concern, you'll notice on the left side of the screen here, on the preliminary plan, it had depicted a cul-de-sac for an extension of Curry Road to be dedicated to the county and then constructed to county standards in order to provide access for these 4 lots. The current filing 1 final plat proposes 1 lot in this vicinity and no right-of-way dedication for the cul-de-sac. And it's been staff's interpretation that this is not consistent with the preliminary plan, and therefore we've had challenges being able to make the finding that all of the final plat approval criteria are being met based on the applicant not providing the land dedication that was agreed upon when the preliminary plan was approved. In order to ensure compliance with the preliminary plan, staff is proposing this condition of approval be added to the preliminary plan with the proposed extension. It's the first bullet point here. The second bullet point is just for reference, since the criteria references note 4 on the preliminary plan, which identifies the Curry Road cul-de-sac extension to be owned and maintained by the county and constructed to meet county standards. At this point, I believe that that is the last remaining major issue that would prevent staff from being able to administratively approve the final plat. So we've worked with the county attorney's office to craft this condition to make sure that the plat does in fact comply with the preliminary plan. And that essentially concludes staff's presentation.
Okay, are there any questions from commissioners for staff this time? Okay, we'll invite down the applicant.
Oh, cool. Good morning again. I'm Doug Widland, representing Casas Limited Partnership, and that's the owner of the property. It's Dr. Jacobs and his family who are seated up here in the audience. Thanks again for taking the time to hear us, and thank you for this and to staff for recommending this extension, because it's been a long process and they really need to have this extra 2 years to get this done, and I think it'll get done quicker than that, actually. But this condition that's been proposed for this extension is this Curry Road cul-de-sac. And so if you look at this first slide that's up, and you have, I think, written paper copies of this same slide. If you look at that, you see that in the preliminary plan on the left side of the sheet, you had the 4 lots, 14, 15, 16, and 17 being served by the Curry Road cul-de-sac. So those lots all needed access, including the drive you see going up through the middle of 17 and 15 up to 16, which is not delineated on the plan because it's off, the lot 16's off. But so 4 lots served by it. So we've switched now to the final plat, and we have lots 14 and 15 being combined into lot 10. And lot 10 is the existing residence of the Jacobs family. Right now they have a cul-de-sac off-site. As you'll see on the final plat, there's a county compliant turnaround already existing there. In the final plat condition, nothing will change. They'll still use the current access they use to get to the house. And you'll see now that 14 and 15 are combined, and you'll see that there is no lot 17 or lot 16. So we have a situation where from the preliminary plan to the final plat, we have no change in access at all. Now, staff supported this removal of these additional lots. There's been no problem with that issue. Their problem is we want substantial conformance to the preliminary plan to get to the final plat. However, there have been changed circumstances being the removal of these additional lots. There is no need at this time for any other access other than what exists. They currently have their drive off the existing cul-de-sac that sits just outside the final plat property. So that changed circumstance, if you go to the second slide, that shows, or your second sheet, that existing turnaround, again, the Curry Road turnaround. That's got the 100-foot diameter just sitting off-site with the drive on the bottom to the Jacobs family house. So in this case, substantial conformance with the preliminary plan is just not justified because of these changed circumstances. We understand if we had those 4 lots there, there would be an issue with access and need to address that. Here, there's no change in access. There's no additional burden to Curry Road. The drives will remain exactly as they are now. So you'll see in your packet, staff cited that substantial conformance rule, and that is actually 7.2.1.D.3F. So the next site that staff provides is a dedication code provision that requires dedication on division of land. But if you go to the farther provision of that Land Development Code, section 8.5.4, and you go to A5, that it states dedication may be modified where the Board of County Commissioners determines the dedication is not roughly proportional to the impact caused by the division of land. So here we have a division of land which is not a division of land for this access. From preliminary plan to final plat, we now have just lot 10, not the 4 lots. So the division of land here, there is none that causes a change to access. So you have the authority under this dedication provision to determine that there is no impact that would require proportionality of this dedication. So in this after condition with the final plat that's been supported by staff as far as the lot configuration, we just don't have any need for this turnaround now. And it's quite damaging to the existing property too if it was put in. So that's the reason mainly for the objection to it, because this big turnaround would come quite close to the existing house. So at this stage, given the final plat configuration, we don't see any need for that Curry Road turnaround into the final plat, and feel that it is the exception that's provided for you in the dedication statute that you can find it's not needed. It's not, there's no proportionality between the impact and the dedication. Thank you.
Commissioner Williams?
Okay, before you leave, sir, thank you. Go back a couple slides again to the actual pictures of the plat map.
See if I can go back. Oops.
Yeah, or
Ryan,
maybe
how about going
Ryan
backwards?
can help you there.
Oh,
Okay,
Yeah.
so we've combined lot 14 and lot 15 into one lot.
Correct.
And then your proposal would be to not continue the extension of Curie Way or Curie Road.
Correct. The cul-de-sac you see on the preliminary plan, lot 14, 15, and 17 touching, would be eliminated, and you go to the final plat where you have existing condition only. And that existing condition is the drive off Curry, that's existing cul-de-sac into lot 10.
Okay, and then was there another need for Curie to be extended beyond lot 17? Was there a lot up above lot 15, or is that accessed from a different road?
Yeah, that's the rest of the subdivision in the final plat's accessed by other means.
Okay, and is Curie Road right now a public or private cul-de-sac?
That is a public dedicated cul-de-sac of 100-foot diameter.
Okay, all right, those are my questions for you. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Any other questions from commissioners? Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you for consideration.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to ask staff to come back up and address, I think, the remaining elements that they have and kind of maybe address the staff
why.
perspective on this.
Jeff Rice with Engineering. Morning, Commissioners. I just want to clarify a couple of things. The cul-de-sac to the south or north, sorry, this is north is to the left on here. The existing cul-de-sac is a temporary easement, and that's as noted on this plat here. So that's not the full standard dedicated county right-of-way. And the issue with not having the right-of-way, we're not asking them to build the cul-de-sac at this point. We just are requesting that the right-of-way be provided on this plat so that in the future, if this lot or other lots subdivide per the preliminary plan, that nobody has to try to come back to this owner to try to get right-of-way that's not there.
Questions from commissioners?
Commissioners, Megan Harrington, Planning Director. I just want to add one additional item from the planning perspective. Jeff addressed the engineering piece of this, but from a planning perspective, when we're looking at this, we have concerns about the next phase. And we typically will see development that comes in phases. We have a preliminary plan for a certain set of lots, and then you have a final plat that comes in for the first phase. And then final plats can come in individually for sets of lots within the preliminary plan. We were just here to you several months ago for a water finding for all of the lots within the preliminary plan. So from a planning perspective, we ask ourselves, if we came forward, because the applicant requested that, for a water finding for the entire preliminary plan, what is stopping the forward thinking of perhaps further subdividing in the future? And that's where staff is at, again, from the planning perspective. So when we look at this, we're seeing that if they were to divide Lot 10 into 2 lots per the approved preliminary plan in the future, we would not have a way to get that right of way and build that road that would serve all of the lots in the preliminary. Something that we did suggest was amending the preliminary plan so that we don't have that future planning. But that is not what the applicant has chosen to do. So I just wanted to give a perspective from the overall planning and thinking forward through the preliminary.
Ms. Harrington, if you would stay for just a moment. I want to make sure commissioners don't have any questions of Ms. Harrington.
Yes, so if they were to come in and divide Lot 10 in the future, they have the water access, and then what is the concern exactly again?
So if they come in and divide,
You may have to go back a few slides. I don't know if
Ryan,
there's...
do you have our slide that shows the entirety of the preliminary plan, please? So I would really like to have Ryan pull up for you the entirety of the preliminary plan, because that is what they have approval for ultimately.
Sure.
And this is all of the preliminary plan. So where Ryan's going to show you, there's lot
14 and
14,
lot
15, lot 16, and lot 17, all are planned to access from future public road, Curry Road. That is 4 lots accessing off what will be in the future a public road. That is what the preliminary plan allows. If they come back with a next phase, another final plat, and would split that into 2 and then continue with another final plat for 17 and 16, we no longer have the ability to secure this right-of-way for this corner, and we cannot build the public road to serve the 4 lots. Ryan, did I explain that correctly? And that is the overall concern about the big picture, if that helps, Commissioner.
Okay, and so in looking at ways that we could possibly get this done today, if we were, if we amend the preliminary plan, can we do that in action today, or that has to go back through planning process?
No, it would need to go back through the planning process.
And the applicant
Okay.
has stated to us many times that they do not want to amend the preliminary plan, and they have the water finding for all of the lots within the preliminary plan.
Okay, and in proposing the thing I hate to propose, what if they made that road going to lot 18 a private easement? So that then, I hate not having public roads. Or going to 14, 15, I guess that is lot 16, isn't it? What if that road off of Curie Road was a private road?
I'm going to have Jeff address that, but I believe we've had conversations where once you have a certain number of lots, it's not a driveway anymore. Engineering criteria manual requires it to be a roadway, but I'm going to turn that over to the engineer.
Okay.
So if that option was looked at for a private road, it would still need to meet county standards for 4 lots, to serve 4 lots. Anything more than 3 lots has to meet county standards. It could be a private easement if it's 3 lots or less.
Okay, that's my question.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you. So I think their interest is in not building that circular cul-de-sac, that just let the road terminate and go to lot 10. But if they decide to develop on 17 and 16 on a future date, then our requirement would be that they build that cul-de-sac.
Correct. And
Okay.
without the right-of-way there, they can't get, if the private property owner doesn't involve that plat back into the new plat, the
So
right-of-way
is,
is still not there.
yes, thank you. So is there something getting in the way of them, just say, leaving the road alone as it is for the moment with Lot 10, but then when they want to develop Lot 16 and Lot 17, then we would have a requirement for them to build a cul-de-sac? Or is there something that would get in the way of that happening? Like, are they going to build the house on Lot 10 too close?
I think the house is already there. I think it's not the issue of constructing it now. And even if they subdivide it and put one more lot in, we might not require it. But once all of those 4 lots in, we would want the road to be surfaced and built properly.
So I presume then theoretically we could approve this today with these changes, but then if they want to develop 17 and 16, then we would have that requirement for that cul-de-sac. And it looks like
And it's
council
less
has a
about building
hand
the road
raised.
at this point. It's more about the dedication of the right-of-way.
Madam Chair,
Yes, please.
just a couple of points. Number one, I just want to go back to a previous question about the existing turnaround north of this property. Mr. Rice indicated that it is a temporary turnaround easement, and I just want to clarify that the turnaround portion is not county maintained. So the 60-foot straight right-of-way is, but the bulb on which people turn around, emergency vehicles, delivery vehicles, what have you, that is not county maintained. So being a temporary turnaround easement, that indicates an intent to extend the roadway either through an additional cul-de-sac or through a through road to the property to the south when it develops. With respect to not requiring dedication of the right-of-way with this first final plat, the issue is that we do not have the legal ability to require an adjacent property owner when it comes to develop. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. We would not have the authority to require Lot 10 to dedicate right-of-way when the adjacent property comes in with an application. If it's approved if this condition is not added to the renewal of the preliminary plan, then the county has no mechanism to require dedication of that right-of-way to build the future cul-de-sac when it's needed.
And that was that proposed condition 4?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Can you show us that again, Ryan?
So the proposed condition is the first bullet point, and the second bullet point is the reference note that was approved on the preliminary plan.
And if I may, I just want to also be clear that this condition simply explicitly states provisions of the ECM, provisions of the code, and county practice in approving final plats consistent with preliminary plans. If you plat property that overlaps what is to become right-of-way, I can't think of a single example where we have not required the dedication of that right-of-way with that platting action, whether it's needed at this current time or not, because staff looks at the preliminary plan as a whole and makes sure that those needs as they are depicted on the approved preliminary plan are implemented going forward.
If I could just ask a question about that. So it seems to me then that a choice to remove this notation and not include it would then be a deviation from both our standard practice and the requirements that are set forth in the ECM?
That is my interpretation. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's essentially what we're discussing, is whether or
Correct.
not we want to, I don't want to use the word ignore, but essentially ignore what is in the ECM. That seems to be the crux of the situation. Okay. Other questions from commissioners?
Yes,
And-
and I'll have one.
And this is a question for council. Note 4, as written, the one that is shown on the screen, would cure that concern? You believe that those words would produce that cure?
I believe that the intent of the proposed condition of approval is simply to reinforce the board's support for those provisions of the code so that it's clear to the applicant what is expected in the design of this final plat.
Okay, thank you.
And then my question, does this stop the development for another 2 years? I mean, can they, once this preliminary plan, do they have to come back to us again? Are they going to have to come back through you again? I mean, they do for the final plat, obviously, but is adding in this condition, will they be able to get ground moving by next spring? That's the question, is I don't want to see it delayed another 2 years.
Suppose that would be,
I mean, it's up to them too,
yeah.
but you know.
the short answer would be if the board approved the request today and approved staff's proposed condition, then they would be required to dedicate the right-of-way in order to get their plat approved.
Or they'd have to come in with a different idea.
Or they would have to come in with a new revised preliminary plan to have it removed.
Okay. All right, I think at this point, I'm going to say to the representative here that I might be okay, I might have to stick with this condition, but does he get a chance to respond?
Yes, we still have
Okay.
opportunity for public comment and also rebuttal after this. So
Okay.
we'll have
All right.
a bit more time on that. Thank you very much. So at this point, we're going to move to the public input portion, but you will have another opportunity after that. So we are going to go ahead and move to the public input portion of this hearing, and we will begin with anyone in support of this application. So if there's anyone here who'd like to speak in support of this application, I'd ask you to come forward at this time. I see no one coming forward. We're going to check online. And we have no one online either. So we will move to opposition. Do we have anyone here that is wanting to speak in opposition to this application? And seeing none and none online. If you'd like to, the applicant, come back down. We don't have obviously any rebuttal because there were no comments in support or opposition. But at this time, if commissioners have additional questions for the applicant, now would be the time for that.
My single comment is, I'm not understanding the reason why county could not request a dedication later when the lots, let's say 17 comes in above with another phase. They ask for your approval of that new phase of the subdivision. One of the requirements you have is you show us access. If you can't show us public access to this new lot 17, you can't subdivide it. So what they do is go to Dr. Jacobs and say, hey, we need the cul-de-sac now. And then they make a deal, or they don't get to subdivide. So you always have that stick of saying you have to show us public access before you can subdivide property. That doesn't go away if this final plat's approved without the Curry Road extension. So at a later time, you always have that ability to come back and say, look, either access or no subdivision. That's just, I don't know any other way to look at it. You always have that power.
Questions from commissioners?
I guess my question would be more for the attorney. Could we add that in as a condition that if they ever decide to subdivide 17 and 16, that they have to come back in? Yeah.
The problem is, you can add the condition, but the problem is enforcing it. If you have an adjacent property owner who's trying to develop and the existing lot owner has no interest in dedicating the right-of-way, we have no mechanism to obtain it. Mr. Widland is correct. We can deny the new subdivision. That is true. But the practical reality is that staff is always trying to work with your applicants to try to get their projects to meet criteria and get them approved. And it just pushes the problem down the road rather than taking care of it now when it's already provided for in the preliminary plan.
Okay, thank you. That would be my question.
We did have a note, I think, in the proposed final plat that said upon further development, then the owner understands access requirements.
So may I ask, why are you not interested in revising the preliminary plan? And you have done the water, right, for it, but are adverse to setting this piece in alignment with those other two?
Dr. Stephen Jacobs.
Yes, Steve Jacobs is my name. My family owns all of this property, so there is not a second owner. That's entirely theoretical. It's news to us that we would be able to amend our preliminary plan on this subject. What's been told to us is if we were to come in to amend the plan, that all of our planning would be thrown out. And there was some contentious discussion about the county taking more of our property for a through road and other issues which are beyond the scope of what we're talking about today. I would like to point out that this is a private property matter, that the initial preliminary plan we inherited from the previous owner, and we didn't understand the impact of this turnaround, the new turnaround on our property would have on the current house. It damages it substantially, and this taking for a future right-of-way is not necessary at this time. The impact, this assessment of taking our property there's no change on our impact on the county. So I think that's also state law, and I hate that we'd have to explore that further. Economically, the property is most valuable on this end of the property as it is. Those four lots have more value as one piece than they do as four lots, in our opinion. We have several lots similar in this area. There are 3 other 15-plus acre lots that are to the east of us, and so we don't want to impact negatively our property. So we do not want the exaction of a commitment for the turnaround when we'd have no intention of building further. The other 2 lots to the, I mean, if we go back to the diagram here of the final plat, I can point out something.
I have to go to your.
Sir, while you're pulling that up, so you're telling us that you have no intention of subdividing those lots in the future?
At this time, we don't. You know, the future is what it is. I mean, in 2000, we've been at this for 12 years. The process for an owner like ourselves is entirely broken, and I will speak to that after we get this approved. I'm not going to shoot ourselves in the foot by talking about all the defects in the process at this point, and it may not be relevant to you all anyway because the commission has obviously changed over 12 years. But our intention at this point is to not subdivide anymore, and we do not want to have a piece of our property dedicated, should something in the future happen. I mean, we own both sides of the property, and we have no intention of doing anything with it besides what this plan shows. So it would be inappropriate to exact property take our property for some future use and county purpose when that's not at hand. It does have negative economic impact on us because a future owner of our property would look at that and say, no, we don't want to have a road there. We're not going to pay you as much for your property. I mean, it's a very, very quiet property. I mean, Commissioner Geithner has seen the property, I think, at some point during your campaigning for office, and the turnaround would wipe out several 150-year-old trees, destroy a meadow, and put the current building very close to the roadway, where it's just entirely inappropriate. Our understanding of the preliminary plan process is that it was entirely preliminary and that changes would be made. So this is a change that we're making for final plat. The county seems to be changing what the meaning of preliminary plan is. At any rate, I think I've started to repeat myself at this point. Sorry, I get emotional about it.
No, that's okay.
Well, I'll ask our county attorney first and then Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to correct the record on a couple of items. First, Dr. Jacobs has used a little bit of charged language, and I want to be clear that you have my legal opinion that nothing about this existing requirement is a taking or an exaction or anything of that ilk. I also just wanted to clarify his statement that he inherited this design. The applicant for the preliminary plan was Casas Limited Partnership and IQ Investors. Those are the current owners of the property, and those are the entities that are controlled by Dr. Jacobs.
Commissioner Williams.
Okay, so lot 14 and 15 currently have your house.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and
it's just.
so is it your intention then to build a house on 17 or to keep 17 and lot 16 as your own?
We have no current plan to build a house on lot, I'm sorry, I don't know the number, 17?
Yes.
To the north, which is not part of this final plat. I'm sorry, to the east, which is not part of this final plat.
But at some point you might want to build on lot 16. You might have to go to a cleaner map than this.
Well, you'd have to plat lot 16 because on the final plat, it doesn't exist. So preliminary plan to final plat, all you have is lot 10. You do not have the 14, 15, or 16 and 17 as you come down around from the house and around back to the drive. So 14, 15, 16, and 17 were the 4 lots served by Curry in the preliminary plan. All you have in the final plat is lot 10, which is a combination of 14 and 15, served by the existing Curry turnaround, served by the existing driveway. So if they wanted to come in and the unplatted portion of this final plat, as you see to the east, if that was platted later, you have the power to, as the county commissioners, to say, okay, show us your access. At that time, they'd have to come in and say, okay, we've provided this turnaround or some other means of access to that property. But certainly it's speculative now, and your exception to the dedication provision of the code, it mirrors what Dr. Jacobs was telling you about the illegal exaction statute in Colorado, but your provision of the code says, hey, it's got to be proportional to this division of land, to the division of land you're addressing now. And this division doesn't make any change to access. And in the future, you have the power to dictate access. It must be had before you can subdivide the rest, including lot 10. If you wanted to go to 2 lots on 10, you'd have to subdivide like it was on the preliminary plan. If you wanted to do the unplatted portions of the final plat, you've got to show access. So 30 years from now, we may not have any change. 100 years, we might not have a change. But right now, we know what we have. By this division of land, there's no proportionality between this dedication requirement and the impact of this division. That's your code provision.
So respectfully, sir, I think it's not just pure speculation. You've submitted a preliminary plan that's been approved that shows this. You've asked for water that shows for these additional lots. So I think that is the real contention here that we are dealing with, is that you've actually shown an intention to do those things. And so we are trying to make sure that those things are in line here. So I know that I am comfortable with not having a dedication if there is a legal mechanism to enforce in the future if those lots are subdivided, as has been already indicated, quite frankly, by the applicant by taking these other steps, by having the preliminary plan approved, by getting the water sufficiency finding for these additional lots. So my question is for our county attorney, do we have a legal mechanism of enforcement so that if those lots in the future are indeed put into place, that we will have the ability to ensure that the ECM is met and that there's proper access?
I'd like planning to correct me if I'm out of order in what you would normally do, but I believe that other than dedicating the right-of-way with this final plat, the only other option I can think of is to show the right-of-way on the final plat, so have it actually depicted. Don't dedicate it at this time, but have a note on the plat and perhaps even a condition of approval on the final plat that depicted future right-of-way is to be dedicated to the public or to the county at no cost at such time as XYZ happens. We have done things like that in the future, or excuse me, in the past as well.
Thank you.
I can't get to it with this. We have that, I think note 28 on the proposed final plat is that language, close to that.
I would suggest corrections to that language, and the right-of-way would need to be depicted on the lot. It would need to be drawn in.
I am comfortable with that. So how long does it take to sit back and write that language in the resolution?
Before, if we could just dip one moment here, because I think our attorney asked a bit from planning as well in case they have anything to add to that. So I'm going to ask Ms. Harrington if you would just come up and either confirm that, and then to Commissioner Williams' point, then we can get back to perhaps that answer on how that would happen if we need to take a brief recess to consider that point.
So what I understand Ms. Sego saying is that we would want it depicted, reserved for future right-of-way. And we have had that conversation, I'm looking at Ryan, we have had that conversation with the applicant that the note as it stands currently is not enough. It doesn't show any requirement to dedicate the right-of-way in the future. So we would want to take it to the next step to actually draw the right-of-way on the drawing and show it with notes about reservation for public right-of-way in the future. And I would just ask that you get specific concurrence from the applicant that they would now be willing to do that, because my understanding is, and meetings that I have attended myself, that that was not an option for this applicant, which is what brings this before you today. And so, Ryan, did I miss anything?
No, that's correct. Staff has made comments on previous submittals of this plat request, essentially asking for that location to be depicted. We have tried to work with this applicant to try to work out an agreement. Maybe we don't need it built today. Maybe we don't need the land dedicated today, as long as we just have it depicted so that in the future, thinking of the potential future property owners who may purchase these lots that may get subdivided in the future, or even if Mr. Jacobs, as he stated, doesn't intend on following through with the next phase of the preliminary plan and subdividing that lot, if he sells that lot in the future to someone else who then does want to come and subdivide, they're not shocked and surprised when they now are saddled with a land dedication that they didn't know existed.
So essentially what we're talking about here is an assurance that if nothing happens and nothing changes, they'll be able to maintain the ownership as it is today. But this would be an assurance of the future that in the event that those things did happen, then it would transfer. And so that would be what you are talking about that has not been agreed to in the past, but essentially, so it allows you to completely keep what you have in place the only time, and that would just give us legal assurance that if it were to happen in the future, that we would be able to move forward at that point and make sure we will have that dedication. I believe Commissioner Williams has an additional question.
There are very good arguments on both sides of this. I have an example up in Monument where by the time it got down to the great-grandchild, no one wanted the property anymore in the family. And so it might be best to stick the condition in there. Even though you have no intention of subdividing at this point. Boy, this is a tough one.
Sir, if you could move to the microphone so we can capture your comments for the
We're
record.
not planning any of this unplatted part of this final plat as you see on that side. Maybe it's 100 years from now, multifamily with a, a concert venue or something where a cul-de-sac is completely worthless and doesn't do anything for you because you've got to put in a full signalized stop sign, light or whatever, an intersection there. So, we're pre-planning with this cul-de-sac for a use. We don't know what it's going to be. And I did not hear whether the county attorney said yes or no to your ability to later dictate access. When we go to plat or whoever goes to plat these unplatted portions and access is changed and you do have a dedication requirement by your code, at that point you can go in and demand it. And I've not heard anything that says you can't.
Thank you, sir. So at this point, I think we've had a commissioner request, and I would agree that respectfully, I disagree. I think our attorney has expressed some concerns and would like to see something that does ensure that in the future. Of course, we have our counsel and the applicant has his. So I, at this point, would love to take a brief recess to have some of that language that the commissioners could then look at and consider, unless there's an objection from my colleagues. And I'm going to ask our county attorney what amount of time would be appropriate for that recess.
5 minutes?
Okay, we will take a brief 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
I'll call this meeting back to order. Thank you for your patience. And I believe Ms. Sego is going to present the condition that was worked on during that brief recess.
Yes, thank you. If I can get the overhead, please. Lori Sego, Senior Assistant County Attorney. I have drafted and staff has reviewed a proposed alternative condition to what staff has proposed on this renewal of a preliminary plan if the board chooses to approve it. And I'll read it into the record as well in case you can't read my writing. The condition would read, the first final plat pending review under file number SF 2225 must depict on Lot 10 the portion of the Curry Road right-of-way shown on lots 14 and 15 of the preliminary plan, labeled as future public right-of-way. Note 28 on the final plat shall read, the future public right-of-way shown on Lot 10 must be dedicated to El Paso County on any final plat in which the fourth lot taking access to Curry Road will be platted. Such dedication must be at no cost to El Paso County or such final plat applicant. No structures or other permanent improvements may be constructed within the future public right-of-way.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Williams.
I'm comfortable with that. I think it solves the issue. One of the things that, as a commissioner, I am reluctant to do is to have to exercise any sort of eminent domain that costs the tax, or not one, eminent domain, or two, the taking of property that costs taxpayers money. And that's what I'm fearful of, is we'll get into the future, 16 years down the road, and someone will be coming back to me and saying, why did you do that? So this works for me. And so I like this condition better than the other one, and I think it meets what I need on this to get it approved today.
Commissioner Williams, is that a motion that you'd like to make, or just comments?
Just comments for now, unless we need to go ahead and make the motion.
I think that we could do it either way, but if I'll give Commissioner Vanderwerf an opportunity. It sounds like, I don't think we're in a hurry. We can continue discussion even after that is being made if we'd like. But if we want to wait just a moment and have Commissioner Vanderwerf answer or ask his questions, I think that's fine as well.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So a couple of quick questions with regard to the specific language itself, where it says, in any final plat in which the fourth lot taking access to Curie Road will be platted. So since lot 14 and 15, if it's approved, would be combined into lot 10, that would be one lot. Then there's the potential future lot 17, or whatever it might be called in the future, and the potential future lot 16, whatever it might be called in the future. So that would be 3 lots, but this says 4 lots, so that this condition would apply if some future lot 17, some future lot 16, and lot 10 gets subdivided. All those conditions, excuse me, would have to be made present for this to be acted upon. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And on the last sentence, no structures or permanent improvements may be constructed within the future public right-of-way. So the idea here would be that the applicant, the landowner, would be unable to build something in that area that would be depicted on the final plat as a future right-of-way. So we would be working on the concept of preserving that space should this be needed. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that is our standard practice when we show reserved right-of-way on plats, which we frequently do.
Okay. And I would just recommend to the chair that, this is an interesting conversation, and there's a little bit of unorthodoxy with regard to it altogether, but it just might make sense to allow the applicant to comment to these words. And I would just offer that suggestion.
Sure. I would go ahead and have the applicant come down if you'd like to speak to this specifically. I just want to add my comments here. I very much appreciate private property rights. Well, actually, before I even say that, I do want to mention, just for transparency's sake, the applicant mentioned that I had seen the property. And so I want to be clear, I have seen the property. I've spoken with Mr. Jacobs before I became a commissioner for the first time. So this was at least, I think, 5 years ago. And so I just wanted to be clear on the record that does not impact my ability to view this hearing in a neutral manner. So, but I do want to say, I would be perfectly comfortable with saying we don't need any right of way if the preliminary plan did not show these lots. And if the applicant wanted to adjust the preliminary plan to change that, that would, to me, alleviate the concern or need for any of this condition. However, since, again, as I stated, the preliminary plan does show the lots, that was not a decision that we made to do. That is a decision the applicant made. Because the water was, done for all of these lots, I think we need to be consistent and make sure, to your point, that we legally have the ability in the future, if that happens. You may disagree, as I always say, lots of good people disagree on things, but this to me is a way to have, a belt and suspender, so to speak, to make sure we feel confident that we have a legal mechanism moving forward in the event that that does happen, because it is currently shown on the preliminary plan. Of course, if you chose to amend the preliminary plan and remove those, I don't think this would be necessary. So with that, I would love to hear your comments.
We think this works, especially with, appreciate council writing in the 4-lot requirement before anything would need to be dedicated. The structures is fine. They don't want to build anything in there. There isn't anything there. We presume this means for going forward. I'm not sure if there's any utilities in there now. We would want that on the record, that if there's existing utilities, obviously those can remain. And if we go to dedicate, there'll have to be a developer agreement that addresses that kind of thing. So I think as far as Casas Limited Partnership is, that we're acceptable with this condition and sincerely appreciate the extension because, like I said, it's been a long road.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad that whenever we are able to get to good solutions or everyone can live with those solutions, that's what we certainly like to do here. So I appreciate you being willing to work with us on that. So with that, I think we are ready for a motion.
Okay, I think I have this. Lori or Ryan will correct me if I don't. I move the adoption of 6D with the addition, there are 7 conditions in the current resolution, and we are adding an additional condition.
I think this might actually be a replacement. So
Or a replacement, sorry.
Yeah, we'll get clarity here.
Yeah, because this is what I need to, this is why I've been anxiously reading things on my phone.
So I think you would just need to, and I may need to coordinate with Lori too. All of the previous conditions would remain in effect. It would be the additional proposed condition as modified by the county attorney.
Without having the resolution, the current resolution in front of me, I'll rely on Ryan. Yes, it looks like the current resolution that's in front of you today has only one condition, and that was the one proposed by staff, and this would replace that.
Oh, I am looking at a different resolution,
Okay.
sorry. Okay, I would move the resolution that is in the packet with the exception of replacing the current condition with this writing that Ms. Segal has proposed.
And I will second that, making note that the condition we're replacing is the proposed condition that was originally proposed in this hearing, and replacing that proposed condition with the one that was on the screen.
Okay, that has been moved and seconded. Any further comments from commissioners? All right, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 3-0. Congratulations, sir. Okay, we are moving to item 8.
Item number 8 is department and committee reports, non-action items. 8A, Annexation Impact Report, Summit View Edition Number 1. Acknowledgement of an annexation impact report for the Summit View Edition Number 1 annexation. Pursuant to state statute, the Board of County Commissioners does not approve or deny an annexation impact report. The report provided by the City of Colorado Springs notifies the county of an annexation request and describes potential impacts in very general terms. The property consists of 32.001 acres and is zoned A5 agricultural. The property is located northeast of Templeton Gap Road and Stetson Hills Boulevard. The annexation request was reviewed by the City Planning Commission on October 9th, 2024, and recommended to City Council for approval of the annexation and zone change as presented. However, the land use plan had a failed motion, which was to recommend approval with the addition of the traffic study being updated to include traffic analysis during the school season. This will go to City Council at a date uncertain as the applicant is working to update the traffic study, completion of the annexation agreement, and updating the land use plan per comments by City Planning Commission. Parcel number 63130-00010, 63130-01001, 015, 016, 019, and 054, Commissioner District Number 2, File ANX 242, Ashlyn Matthey, Planner, Planning and Community Development.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Annex 242, Summit View Edition Number 1 Annexation. My name is Ashlyn Matthey. I was the planner on this project, and Charlene Durham was the principal engineer on the project. For public input, if you wish to comment or participate and are watching remotely, please provide a name and reliable number to pcdhearings@elpasoco.com. The request before you is going to be the acknowledgement of the annexation impact report for Summit View. Pursuant of state statute, the BOCC does not approve or deny the annexation impact report or be in support or opposition of the annexation request. The City of Colorado Springs has notified the county in very general terms. This property is going to be 32 acres and is zoned agricultural A5. The properties, I should say, are located northeast of Templeton Gap Road and Stetson Hills Boulevard. Due to some of the implications as in the summary, this will not be going to the City Council currently. It'll be a date uncertain as the applicant is working through some various items per the City Council's recommendations. Before you is going to be the Land Development Code, Section 10.1.7, for reviews of the impact report. What I have here is going to be a zoning map that's going to be depicting the subject parcels and some of the roadway here. So what you can see is that it is zoned with the A5 from the county, and then what we do have is a lot of surrounding City of Colorado Springs here, R5, and some commercial zoning as well. For drainage and transportation, so this is going to be located within the Cottonwood Creek Drainage Basin. A portion of Appaloosa Way is right-of-way and will be vacated within the county and connect to Templeton Gap within the city. It's going to be the red here. That is what I have for you guys today.
Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Vanderwerf?
Yes, if I might, scroll back to the map, I just want to make sure the annexation here is what's within the black line?
Yes, so this kind of interesting shape we have here, this is going to be the subject parcels and then a portion of Appaloosa.
Okay, and then the lots immediately to the east of that, but west of Powers, where you have the A5 and the RR5, that's still county jurisdiction?
Yes, so this color zoning you're seeing here, the green, tan, and red, that's going to be county. Everything else, though, is within the city, and then what they're asking for a later date at another hearing will be for the annexation of these subject parcels, and then this portion of right-of-way specifically.
And then the property above and the property below, both going out to Powers, are both city jurisdiction.
Yes.
Is there a rationale for why they just didn't annex all the way out to Powers?
The annexation report is pretty general. It doesn't go into the specifics of that. They're just looking to specifically take these parcels.
Huh. I mean,
I'm guessing that it's because property owners have to ask to be included, generally speaking, and maybe our county attorney would.
Yeah, I was going to say, my suspicion is the other properties are all owned by someone.
Correct. For the record, Megan Harrington, Planning Director. Yes, this is an enclave, so an area of unincorporated El Paso County completely surrounded by the city. However, this is coming through as a specific annexation petition, and the property owners need to petition to annex. And so these several property owners here, they're a larger developer is contract to purchase based on annexation, and that's why they're only annexing this specific piece.
okay, thank you. I appreciate that. That helps explain what's going on. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from commissioners?
That answers my question too. I think some days it's a good idea as property owners to get together and ask, since you're an enclave, to go in. So I hope that this works out for the other property owners going around them.
I would suspect that there are some folks who prefer to live in the county because our taxes are lower. So I would guess that that is probably at least partial consideration from folks that I have spoken to on this. And so, perhaps they will. We'll have to see what happens. Nevertheless, this is not an item that we need to take action on. We have received this report, and unless there are additional instructions to staff that we would like to convey on this report, I think we have concluded this item. If there's anything else that staff would like to add as well. Okay. Thank you very much. Item 9.
Item number 9 is the addendum, and there are no addendums today.
Item 10.
Item number 10 is the executive session. 10A, executive session pursuant to CRS 246402-4B for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions regarding county government's role under Colorado's natural medicine statutes contained in Colorado Senate Bill 23-290. Kenneth Hodges, County Attorney, and Terry Sample, Senior Assistant County Attorney.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Are we moving to go into executive session at a time certain?
I believe we published a time certain of 12:30. I'll look to our clerk to confirm that.
Madam Chair, we didn't have a time published on the agenda that we would go into executive session, but you can certainly make the motion to go into executive session now at a time certain of 12:30.
Okay, so I would recommend, because we would like to wait for Commissioner Gonzalez to join us, that we continue with that at 12:30.
Okay, I move we go into executive session at a time certain of 12:30.
And I will second.
That has been moved and seconded. I will call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 3-0, and we will meet for the executive session as per usual at 12:30.